First of all, let me talk about Carl Wren up in Central Texas. Check him out, Carl, REHNKRtraining.com. And Masada Ayub, I've taken his classes. Tom Givens, I've taken his classes.
Take Tom's class, not for the shooting, but just to listen to him talk.
Listen to him talk.
Is so smart. When it
well, the
comes to that
shooting's
stuff.
pretty good too, but yes, he is an amazing wealth of information. So is Mas Ayub. And if you want to learn, if you can't make it to our class that we're going to be doing, which we're going to be talking about two of them, any of the Gabe Suarez classes will teach you how to fight as well.
Gabe teaches, all his instructors teach good classes.
Yep, they teach
a couple of those.
Exactly. And so let's take this opportunity for just a minute. Let's talk about our classes. Ben it's kind of like a once-a-year thing that we've kind of set up now. Once a year, Ben and I invite you to San Antonio and Dallas. Come to Texas and train with us. We have a new class we're going to teach.
Yeah, we're going to be teaching pistol fighting dynamics. And I'm not sure what else we should call it, but it's all going to be about movement. Movement is life. Movement is how you get off the X. Movement is all of this stuff. And, I look back and somebody wrote a book on it now, and all these other instructors are starting to get it. These guys that are coming from the competing world, they're starting to talk about it. You got to be able to shoot on the move, or you're just not going to be able to compete because you can't move fast enough, stop, and then shoot, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, Bob and I have been talking about that for almost a decade now.
For a decade.
And it's how...
We've been teaching it for that long, too.
And I look at how long it takes people to catch on with new techniques that come out in the shooting world.
Yeah.
And it's probably about a decade, because I remember starting to talk about that in 2008, 2009 as a contractor overseas. I came back from overseas, and you and I linked up, and I remember I was thinking about it. Our first interview you did of me, I talked about that.
2010.
Move, draw, shoot. And if you can, shoot while you're moving, because you're harder to hit. And that was, so that was 11 years ago that we've been talking about this. And the only one I knew that was doing it before at that time was Gabe Suarez.
Right.
And now there's a lot of us, like you and I, and a bunch of small instructors out there doing it. And now it's like catching on. Oh my gosh, finally.
And, Gabe Suarez's class is where I first learned to move, draw, and shoot. First one I took was taught by a guy named Glenn Matthews. I went to Tyler, Texas. That was back in 2010. And I took a bunch of them from John Payne. I taught with the Suarez team for a while. And you and I have been teaching it for quite a long time. So these two classes we got coming up, Ben, are they for beginners?
They're for intermediate level people.
Okay.
Because all we're going to be doing is shooting on the move. And you and I define an intermediate class as somebody that tells us that they can draw from the holster and safely shoot targets. And they know how the gun works. They can reload. They can load their own magazines. They have a basic knowledge of how the firearm works. That's going into our intermediate. If you can't draw from the holster, if you don't know how to load your magazine, if you're not sure how the gun works, if you can't hit the target, and I say hit the target, I'm talking about passing like the Texas CHL course.
Or wherever state you're from.
Or whatever state you're from. If you can pass that course and you can draw from the holster safely and hit a target, you can come to our class. It'll be perfect for you. If you're an advanced shooter, you would love this class because we let you off the reins. There's not many reins that we put on people. Most of the shooting drills are individual, so you can move and shoot as fast as you can.
We are safe, though, I'll say that.
But most of the other classes that I've been to when we move and shoot, we're all in one line. We all have to move together. We're all linked in. We're all this stuff.
We don't do that.
And I'm just like, go. Be fast.
Yeah, I want to add to this, though. Ben and I are very much sticklers on safety. You will be very safe, and you will learn these techniques. I think this is also for an intermediate shooter, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I said, intermediate. We are. You probably won't find somebody that's more anal retentive about the firearm safety stuff than me. We go to competitions, and a couple of the range safety officers are not as safe as I want them to be.
Yeah.
And it aggravates the crap out of me. They're like this stuff and that stuff. I mean, even 3-gun now, Bob. Have you seen that?
Yes.
So the rifle is not a rifle until you touch it with a magazine, which means you can point that thing any way you want. You can strap it over your back. You can run with it with the muzzle facing uprange. You can run with the muzzle facing at yourself or the SO or anything else. It's not considered a firearm, and the 180 rule doesn't click in until you touch it with a magazine, because they always run with the gun unloaded. which is probably good since you're pointing that damn thing everywhere. But it makes really, really bad habits. A firearm is always a firearm, and we never point at anything we don't intend to shoot, except for the stuff that, when we're doing dry practice and some of that stuff.
And even if your gun's unloaded, it's loaded.
It's a bad...
Always treat it as if it's loaded. It doesn't matter how many times you've checked it and somebody else has checked it. For the purpose of building good habits, treat it as if it's loaded.
Yeah. So I think they go bad habits on that stuff.
Well,
and it's all timed and everything else. So either... You can see how anal retentive I am about these rules. I see the 3-gun guys, and they are incredible shooters. A lot of them are better shooters than me, but they are putting that thing over their backs and running, and when they get to the stage, they grab it by the bottom of the butt stack, and they flip it all the way around 180 degrees, points to everybody behind them, and then comes up in front of them, and then they load the magazine, and then they go to work.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been flagged enough times in my life. I generally get insulted when somebody is pointing a gun at me. So
yeah, I do too. So our classes are September 25th and 26th in San Antonio. We actually go up to a little town called Bulverde, and there's a range there called Cedar Ridge Range. It's about a 30-minute drive north of San Antonio. So
I think it's 30 minutes from the airport even.
Yeah, 30 minutes from the airport. So all you fellow Texans, this is going to be easy to get to if you're in South Texas. So 25th and 26th, it's a 2-day class. You get both of us as an instructor.
Yeah, and if you want to fly in, we'll help you with the hotels and where to stay.
Yep, yeah.
There's a couple good ones that we know.
And by the way, I'm gonna point something out. I don't know too many classes where you get 2 real good instructors for the price of 1.
Yeah.
And that's what we offer. And then we're going to go to Dallas. Actually, not really Dallas, Waxahachie.
Just south of Dallas.
Yeah, it's North Texas. But it's about 45-minute drive south of Texas, right? I was going to say
45 minutes south of the airport there.
South of the airport there. And so North Texas, South Texas, take your pick. Come see us for 2 days. Train with us.
And I can almost bet that anywhere you live in America, there's a direct flight from your airport of choice to Dallas-Fort Worth, because it's one of the biggest hubs.
And the Dallas class is going to be October 16th and 17th.
And the weather should be awesome.
Yeah, the weather will be good. So within about 24 hours from this recording, we're going to have links on our websites. We're going to have sign-up links, so you can go there and sign up.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah, we'll have them up there. And so go to handgunworld.com or go to modernselfprotection.com. Sign up for either our San Antonio or our North Texas class. Come spend 2 days. We will definitely make it worth your while. And
everybody that's ever taken one of our classes said it's worth the time, worth the money.
It is worth the time.
And we know right now it's going to be worth the ammo, too. Even the last ammo shortage that we did it in,
last year.
Well, we did one, last year, too. And then in 2012, when we did all those classes, during that ammo shortage, in 2013, the great ammo shortage, I'm starting to see ammo again.
Yeah, I'm starting to see ammo again.
And it's not cheap, but it's there.
At a lowering price. I'm going to describe it that way. It's been at an insane price, but now it's at a lower insane price.
So, and then most of the drills, you'll be able to shoot as many as you want. So if you want to fire 1 or 2 rounds, you can cut your ammo budget way down. If you want to empty the magazine, you're going to have to add some more money into your ammo budget there.
Yeah, you can shoot as much or as little as you want. It really is your decision. As long as you practice what we teach you during the class, shoot as much or as little as you want.
And we encourage you to actually shoot more, because there's very few times that you can run up and down the range and test your skills. And if you miss, nobody's going to penalize you for anything. So you can really push your limits to find out where you are and what you can and can't do with a firearm in your hand.
Exactly. So back to constitutional carry again for a while. Here in Texas, I think they were working on this for about 10 years.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
And it kept failing and failing and failing. Excuse me.
Man.
But finally they got it through, and there was some pushback, a lot of pushback. But I think it's great, because let's talk about the Second Amendment for a minute, Ben. The first person I heard say this and make this popular was Ted Nugent, talking about, he started saying the Second Amendment is my concealed carry permit. And it's true, that is.
Should be.
That it should be. I mean, that's your concealed carry permit. And any state that forces you to get a license is really infringing on your Second Amendment.
It is. And it's the right to keep and bear
arms.
That's what the text meant 200 years ago. And I know we always argue that, well, it was 200 years ago, and, people couldn't do... 200 years ago, they owned cannon and artillery pieces like civilians did. Now we think about that as the stupidest thing ever. But the War of 1812, the Civil War, a lot of this stuff was fought with civilian-owned weapons. And that includes crew-serve artillery pieces.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't something out of the ordinary. And then back when the Constitution was drafted, they knew that. Because they used them during the Revolutionary War.
And you're bringing up a good point, Ben, that I want to talk about. A lot of people, I hate it when people say this. They say, the Constitution gives me the right to own a gun. Well, let me stop and correct that for a minute. The Constitution does not give us very many rights at all. The Constitution protects rights that we already have. And the Constitution stops the government, limits the government to what they can do to take those rights away from us. Do you agree?
Yes, and I was just thinking right there while you were talking is, where did this come from? At what point did we have to say, Mother May I, to the government so we can do something?
When big government people started taking over.
Maybe it's the schools, maybe it was just...
Whatever.
I don't know what it is, but there shouldn't be... If you're a free person, there shouldn't be, well... Is it okay to do this? Is there a law against it?
Yeah.
If it's not going to hurt anybody else,
right?
There shouldn't be a question. You should be able to go out and do it. I say the line is right there where you're going to hurt somebody else. And some of the things we can argue forever on, but the right to swing my fist ends at your nose.
Pretty much. The Founding Fathers, their whole intention with the Constitution. And here it is. People can't see this, but here's a little bitty pamphlet. And this Constitution is not very big. It's a tiny little pamphlet, little bitty book of 39 pages long. But what this was designed to do was to tell the federal government, hands off of our rights. You can't infringe, not just the Second Amendment, but mainly if you read the first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights, this is telling the government, hands off this stuff. Well, you can't touch this stuff.
And we always talk about the amendments, but the rest of the Constitution was supposed to just give the authority to the federal government for very, very specific little things.
Right. And whatever they didn't give the authority to the federal government was left up to the states.
Was supposed
That's
to be.
That's the 10th Amendment.
Yep.
Yes. And so states have every right to allow citizens to constitutionally carry. States are, I should say they're within the law of doing that because it says right here in the Second Amendment that no government shall infringe upon that.
Yeah. And then we start getting into enumerated rights and all sorts of things.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Some of the stuff that's coming out years and years ago is good. An enumerated right means that the states have to follow that same right.
Yeah.
So the enumerated first 10 amendments, the states shouldn't be able to trample on our right to carry a concealed weapon or bear arms.
Yeah, and by the way, let's talk about real quickly, why was the Second Amendment written? Maybe
because that's how the Revolutionary War started?
Yeah, pretty much. What were the Founding Fathers trying to do with the Second Amendment?
It seems so simple in history, but I don't understand how lawyers screw it up. Maybe they're just not that smart.
Because they have an agenda.
But, yeah, it was to keep a tyrannical government from overpowering the citizens.
Bingo.
And that's what the whole Second Amendment was about.
Yes.
Is so that the government could never take over. And then I love some of our idiot government like, well, we got nuclear weapons. How is your small arms ever going to defeat? I don't know. How are they doing in Afghanistan and Iraq right now? How did they do in Vietnam? How did, all these other places where we took heavy hits as American military? Hey, what do you think the American people could do too? So that's why.
Barring the use of nuclear weapons, we have the ability to resist. And here's the thing.
And that any idiot would suggest using a nuclear weapon on American soil.
Yeah.
For anything that we can foresee right now.
That's called the end.
It's Yeah, you're talking about the end of times if you're going to use a nuclear weapon on American
The Second
soil.
Amendment was to stop tyrannical governments from taking over. That now we have